Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. It is a road show. Thursday, Hail Varsity Radio is live at the Mary Cobbler. We are a good punt away. Or a
pint?
Punt.
Okay, gotcha.
Not pint, but right. Punt away from Avila Stadium, Nebraska, practicing earlier. We made it. We made it from Omaha.
With zero sleep.
To Atlanta.
We even brought the melatonin and didn't even take it.
Well,
we made the conscious decision as we were on the way here. Like, if we take a melatonin now with 3 hours left in the flight, it means we're going to be zombies all morning.
It was a little rough to try and sleep on the flight overnight.
So this is the hallucinogenic version of Hail Varsity Radio.
But we are excited to be here in Ireland. Dublin is gorgeous. Ted is the man. He is letting us crash with him. He's the biggest Husker fan in Ireland.
We're going to talk to him in a little bit,
yep,
too.
The bar owner here at the Mary Cobbler is incredible. There's all sorts of things he suggested we could put on the flat screen just above Mark's noggin. But football on our mind, and we are excited to get ready for Nebraska-Northwestern here. Coming up on the show, Brandon Vogel, also in Ireland. Vogue's at practice today. He'll sit down with Elijah Herbel. We are going to find time for Gary Barnett, the former Northwestern coach of Colorado, and of course Northwestern going to the Rose Bowl in '95. Barney will be with us. A lot of purple.
Keep looking this way. Keep looking this way. By the way, I got a text.
Kraynak is adjusting my podcast.
Yeah, you got to stop looking at this camera and start looking at me and talking. Elijah, that's better, right?
Like, yeah. Yes. Hey, you sound lovely.
Exactly. So look this way. Quit looking there.
Walk this way.
Talking to the mic.
Right.
It's a whole different setup here in Dublin. I mean, let's be fair to ourselves. It's a different deal. You're wonderful. Used to having like the headset in front of you and you can look at the camera. Uh-huh. That's not now. We can't now.
Can we order another Guinness?
Yes, we can in a little bit.
Big thanks to our friends at Union Bank and Trust, UBT. Kraynak, like, get away from me.
No, I'm saying talking to this mic.
I'm working on it, okay?
Right,
Give me a headset.
All right.
Long and short of it, our friends at Union Bank and Trust, incredible people. They'll pop on by Saturday's live show here at the Mary Cobbler, but they are helping making this road trip a reality. Great coverage from Aaron Sorensen, Brandon Vogel, and Elijah Herbel rolling his sleeves up as well. How are we feeling? Is that line continued to push upward?
What is the latest? Latest I heard was 13.5, if I'm not mistaken. Where is it at now?
Anywhere between 12.5 and 13.5.
Okay.
And, Will is the man. Will, come say hi to the Nebraska folks here.
Will is going to come in. Will is the owner of the Mary
Cobbler. Just peek right in here, Will.
Which is where we're going to be. This is where we are going to be today, obviously. Friday.
I don't know why I put an American accent on there. I will do anything.
That's all good.
Within reason.
Will, hey, football fan, it's Nebraska, it's Northwestern, and you're just right across the way from the stadium. Going to be a great time, man, for all these Americans that are making their way. Thanks for the love you've shown so many folks from the Big Ten.
Yeah, no, it's to be honest, there's been loads last couple of days. There's been, you can see it kind of picking up, even other publicans in town. There's an atmosphere definitely growing. There's actually a barman sitting at the bar there from a big pub in town, and he is saying it is out the door already, kind of there. They're getting excited in town. Yeah, it's should be good. Should be good weekend.
Well, especially after COVID, right? Like, it's nice to get everybody back together, right?
We don't need an excuse.
That is good. That is good. So, how you feeling about Nebraska-Northwestern? Do you have a team you're leaning towards at all?
What's the political answer here?
Go with Nebraska.
I was going to say Nebraska. Yeah.
That's what we thought.
I'll be honest, rugby's my sport, but I watch a lot of American football through Hollywood, so it's, that game looks great.
How about the takedown of the All Blacks rugby team by the boys in Dublin?
That was pretty special.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we opened up here early, like well before, like, you know, it's like 7:30 in the morning. The Ireland coach actually drinks here on a regular basis, so everyone kind of felt like it was our team kind of watching it, so it was great. Like all the, like rugby's big here, but the guys are still very approachable, so you can see them walking down the street, so everyone kind of buys into it. But yeah, that was unbelievable, like the effort and everything. But like even months before that, the head coach Andy Farrell was in, and you could see how much he wanted it. Like he was like, "We're going to do this." So I actually was pretty confident we would do it, just purely based on his confidence. Yeah.
Man, that's what it's about. That's kind of what Nebraska's trying to transition to on their end, as being a team that was close a year ago to being a confident team, and they want to step off in that right direction. We'll have more on the breakdown in Nebraska-Northwestern. Will is with us. The Mary Cobbler is his incredible pub. And, sir, this has been a true pleasure.
Thank you very much.
We are posting up here until you tell us to leave.
I will roll you out the door gladly. I'll just keep the Guinness coming.
That's right. Appreciate
Thanks,
you,
guys.
Will. Thank you, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we are a stone's throw away from the stadium here, which is really nice, because one thing about Aviva Stadium, you know, compared to a lot of venues that you would see in the States, where the stadium has ample parking surrounding it, right? Maybe you have giant parking lots. Maybe you have, you know, Lincoln's a bit of an exception. Now, that's a little bit, it's a little closer to actually the Lincoln vibe, where it's plopped right in the middle of a city.
Right there.
Right? That's not often the case. Like, you go out to Oregon, you go to Virginia Tech, you go to, God, almost any other place. It's usually not right in the city, and they usually have big parking lots. That's not the case here. It is tucked right into this neighborhood, and the Mary Cobbler's 5 minutes away. I mean, it's going to be a 5-minute walk. Incredible place. Really incredible place.
We are excited to be here. Elijah, jump in here, cowboy, and your vibe. We've been traveling the last 24 to 30 hours.
Yeah, we were on 1 hour sleep over the past 36.
Which is fine. We'll
hallucinations start at 48 hours.
That's right.
According to some articles.
Is that a Quaalude or is that melatonin?
That's just natural. Like, naturally you start hallucinating at 48 hours and no sleep.
How are you feeling back in Nebraska with this thing showing, getting quite a bit closer?
Well, you can really feel the excitement building. Like, just, I mean, I haven't been out and about talking and polling Husker fans, but talking to my roommates, talking to my friends, it's starting to feel real, like, oh yeah, college football is here on Saturday. It's not just college football is close. It feels like it's upon us. I mean, you're seeing game previews out there, and you're seeing, at least for me on Twitter, all these people going off to Dublin and inside the stadium and getting geared up. It finally feels like football season again. And what I want to pose the question to you is, you guys were talking about your travel and whatnot. Yesterday on the show, we discussed whether Mark Kraynak and Chris Schmidt were going to be doing the Wade Boggs Challenge across the Atlantic Ocean. Did you guys get through 64 beers? Were you even close?
Did not. Didn't have fried chicken either, which was another Wade Boggs special.
Did we do the Wade Boggs Challenge? The pride of Omaha, the 3,000 hit club, Gold Glove, Red Sox, Yankee, and wherever else in Tampa ended up. But yeah, we claim Wade Boggs because he was born in Omaha in 58, but I don't know that he claims Omaha.
He was one of the last great slappies, man.
He was.
Yeah, it was him, Tony Gwynn, Ichiro, I guess, carried on the tradition. Yeah, that's the way to do it. But you know what? On the way here,
we did. Kraynak did step up. God love him. He got us into the Sky Club, where it was like $40 each to get it. No, it was nice of you.
Yeah.
I mean, there was flank steak, Elijah. We had some gourmet with pesto. It was incredible.
No, but on the way here, it's interesting because I've read in a couple different places that it's 10,000 to 13,000 Nebraska fans, and this is eerily similar to what it was like going into Boulder into 2019,
where it grew,
where it was like 20,000 Nebraska fans will be there, and then in actuality it was like 40. You know, I mean, it was same with Notre Dame. I'm getting similar vibes here. Well, I wouldn't believe the hype about 10,000 or whatever. There are multiple people who are sort of untracked, unaccounted for, that are making their way here. There were plenty, I would say, on that entire plane, because you fly international, it's it's 3 rows on the left, or 3 seats on the left, 3 in the middle, 3 on the right, right? So you got like 9 across, all the way back on this giant jet. So it carries hundreds and hundreds of people. I would say 40 to 50% of the flight last night, just one flight from Atlanta on a Wednesday, about 50% of it was Husker fans. And if you repeat that from Dallas, from Chicago, from New York, from Boston, from all the other places that people fly from in the United States, and you multiply that by number of days, in addition to all of the charters and all of those things that have happened, I think 10,000 is selling it way short.
Well, you're going to see 20.
Well, and this is just what I've been seeing across social media, that people have been seeing, well, there's still tickets available, and let's go check flight prices. And, flight prices have dropped because they're looking to fill up these flights that they've already booked to Dublin. And people are actually this week buying their tickets to Dublin and making the trip over. So there is going to be that little jump of Nebraska fans you don't expect. And I also think their metric of that 10 to 13,000 number is mostly based on the people who went through the official ticket packages, where, I don't know, you can go hop on StubHub and go buy tickets that were meant for the Irish people to buy that you can now go buy now, and that'll never get back to the people in charge who are booking this event saying, we're expecting 10 to 13,000. So I'm with you, Mark. I think we're going to see a bigger number, that 10 to 13,000, and that's not even from me being over there seeing the amount of Husker fans around.
And in terms of where this thing ranks in Dublin, now Dublin is a city of about, what, Ted, 1.5 million people, roughly?
Is Ted ready for his radio debut?
About 1.5 million people, and we can bring Ted on with us here. He's our gracious host in Dublin, and he actually helped us even talk about this idea way back in 2017 when he came to a game.
We talked about this.
Credit goes to Mark Kraynak and you, Ted, because you were here for North.
So just real quick for the listeners,
we
just
made the seats.
just set this up real quick, just so everybody knows here. So this is Ted Sargent. He's born and bred Dublin. He has been to Lincoln, so he's been to a game. He watched Nebraska-Northwestern, ironically enough, back in 2017. Think about that. You've only been to 2 Husker games, and they're both Nebraska-Northwestern. But so Ted has become familiar.
I know what that's like.
He's even he's become familiar with Nebraska and what it's all about. But he's also an expert about Dublin and about Ireland in general. This is a guy that has sailed in a single sailboat around the entire country of Ireland to raise money for blind children over the course of 39 days.
That's awesome.
Right? So
it was ridiculous.
The dude knows this country like no other. And in terms of like how COVID shut everything down, I'm not trying to make this a COVID show, but I'm just saying it shut everything down. This is literally the biggest tourist event that has happened since COVID.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and it's funny. Like we talked about this the last time we were on. I went to one of the very first Emerald Isle Classics. I think it was Navy Notre Dame.
Right, 95, right?
It's a long time ago. I was a nipper. And so I still have those cutouts. And that's why we were on the show, we were chatting about it, and we talked about it 5 years ago. But this is big deal. Like, everywhere you go, everyone's talking about this game. It's on the bus stops, it's in the airport. Like, I picked you guys up, and I thought I was in a different, I didn't think I was even in Dublin anymore. I was like, what the hell's going on? Half of Nebraska is arriving into Dublin. It's crazy. It's cool. It's important as well, because I think I said this to you, I think I said to you in the car. It's like, I think there's a lot of people who saw this game coming up either locally here in Ireland or at home in Nebraska or even Northwestern Chicago and said, I'm going. I've been locked up for 2 years. Nothing's doing. I'm going. I'm going to go, and I'm going to, as we say here, have the crack and have the fun and just do it. And I think there's a real buzz. Like, I've had a smile on my face for a week, guys. I'm like, I'm ready.
Now, you just mentioned something that's really interesting. You said the crack, and that is spelled C-R-A-I-C.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Let's talk about some differences.
For those folks that don't know.
For those of you at home who are like, what's going on? The guys are doing illicit drugs. No, it's just our way of talking. It's like, it's having fun. It's having
the crack means having
the fun, having a good time.
Like you're cracking up. Laughing.
And so I want every Nebraska fan who's listening to this, whether you're in Dublin, whether you're in Omaha, whether you're in Lincoln, I don't care where you are. By the way, I've got family in Lincoln. Shout out to the family in Lincoln, who are all here, by the way, 11 of them, all gone crazy. I want you, wherever you are, to have the crack. I want you to have the crack, right? Not literally have the crack.
Not
I want
C-R-A-C-K.
No. I want
C-R-A-I-C.
I want you to have some fun. I want you to
different.
enjoy this. I've been following the Frost story for a while through my friends here where I'm sitting beside, and I don't know. I feel like this whole game could light up Nebraska for the rest of the season. There's a buzz around this game, and I think this could be a step forward. And I'm like, have the crack. Enjoy this moment wherever you are around the world. Watch the game. I just feel good about it. Bringing people together and just having some fun. It's going to be awesome.
And Ted, it is right on what you're saying about Nebraska and the buzz, the momentum that the program needs that they can get in Ireland. And it's not an accident. You want to talk about fan bases. This isn't to pander, it's just reality. Coming off 3-9, and we're talking about that number growing from 8 to 20,000 Nebraska fans.
Oh, easily.
You're circling Nebraska to do events like this because the fan base is incredible.
Yep.
They're going to travel
Yep.
out here, and it's paired with phenomenal people from Ireland that'll host this thing.
Well, and a lot of people have asked, why Nebraska? Why would Nebraska come here? But it's something just shy of 200,000 Nebraskans claim Irish heritage.
Okay.
You got O'Neill that has their huge St. Patrick's Day celebration, which I know is
Maybe
a
on
little bit different.
maybe
in
on my
Ireland.
mother's side.
Yeah, but it really, I mean, you're talking. It's a substantial percentage that claim Irish American heritage.
Yep.
Your last name's Sargent. There's a Sargent, Nebraska with the same spelling. And you
Yes.
have cousins.
No word of a lie. Like the first time I was in Nebraska, I came back, right? No word of a lie. And I said to someone, I said, I was just in Omaha. And they're like, did you not go see your cousins? I'm like, huh?
I have cousins.
It's like, so my cousins, and I can't, shout out. He was a member of the band. He was actually playing in the Nebraska band.
Yeah.
So it's deep. And the
Yeah,
only
and
thing
then
I'll
an
say to
aunt
you,
that was a professor at UNO.
yes, at Lincoln.
Cool.
But what I'd say to you as well is there's something that I felt. I remember being in the stadium in Omaha, and I had met up with
Lincoln.
you in Lincoln, yeah. And you guys said to me, there's something special about the buzz around a Nebraska game. Mm-hmm. And I've been to rugby games here, and my wife's a big Munster supporter, and there's a raw emotion to it. There's like this. It's like a switch, and I felt that when I was at the Nebraska. I felt that when I was at that Nebraska game.
Yeah.
There's something raw, and what I'm really intrigued to see, and what I'm excited about, and I'm really excited about it, is to feel that same roar that I've felt at a rugby game, at an American football game with Nebraska in Dublin, in the Aviva Stadium. I think it's going to be electric.
Yeah.
That's what excites me the most.
And it's going to end with the lights on. So the sun sets a little bit past 8 o'clock. It kicks off locally 5:30 here. So it'll start in the daylight, probably around 7:30, 7:45. Lights will come on. It'll be a little darker.
Yeah.
It'll end it'll end under the lights. So it's going to be an interesting environment.
I want us all to spill out onto the street when the Nebraska win, with a little bit of energy and excitement in our veins. And then, you know what? I'm going to watch from the sidelines in Ireland as you guys rock forward and you do, 10-0 or something? Yeah, I'd settle for that.
Okay, you're just win them all.
Win them all.
Is what Ted is
basically, just
saying.
all the way. But we're there.
We are, and we're here at the Mary Cobbler. We're lucky to be with Ted, dear friend of Kraynak's, dear friend of mine. I'm just excited to be on the road as we are here, Union Bank and Trust, making this happen. And we are at the Mary Cobbler for a Thursday show, Rockin' Friday, and of course Saturday pregame, the weekend edition, from 1 to 3.
Oh,
we'll get our body clocks adjusted up and ready to go. A quick timeout. Elijah and Brandon Vogel, Hail Varsity, live in Dublin, Ireland, at the Mary Cobbler, as Union Bank and Trust making this happen with Hail Varsity Radio.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back in here on a Thursday edition of Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt, and Mark Kraynak, and those two will be back with us next segment. They're, I don't know, probably bellied up to the bar right now or something as they're living it up in that Dublin experience. We're also joined here now from Dublin, Ireland by Brandon Vogel, staying up late into the Irish night to join us here. And Brandon, I got to go first with the Irish experience so far. Is it as drunk as you were expecting? And is it as, passionate, surrounded by Husker fans as you were expecting? What's that experience been like through the first, 48 hours for you?
Not even that quite. So about 36, and it's been great. I came to Ireland for the first time about 20 years ago as a much younger person who that was their first international travel experience. And my feeling then was, not so much Dublin, although it's kind of like Nebraska in this regard. You've got Dublin as the one big city all the way in the east. The further you get west, it reminds me a lot of Nebraska, and people are really friendly. It's just really easy going. It's an easy place to travel to. So I think that's been a lot of fun. And the conversations I've had with some of the Nebraska people I've encountered here, I think they're seeing that, it's not a place where there's a huge barrier to traveling internationally. And the excitement around the game seems to be pretty strong. Saw a few more Northwestern fans today than I had the first day I was here. So I think Northwestern will be pretty well represented as well, but Nebraska still holds a pretty big edge in that based on what I've seen so far.
And from back in the first segment, Chris and Mark were a little bit surprised by how many Husker fans they were seeing, not only going over on their flight, but how many they've seen around it. Can you give us some kind of number for the people that are staying here in Nebraska of what the scene looks like in Dublin right now?
Yeah. So, in terms of the college football fans you encounter, I would say the red to purple is probably about 7 or 8 to 1 at this point, based on what I've seen. My flight, which was connecting out of Boston. So not a college football hotbed, a place that I like. I lived there for a long time, but it was not a college football hotbed. Didn't see a ton of either Northwestern or Nebraska gear on that flight over, but that seems like one of the few where that was the case. And once you got here, you see Husker stuff all over. At our hotel, there's a ton. Nebraska's sports information staff is also at this hotel, so seen a ton of them. And I think Nebraska, the stadium holds 50,000. I don't want to ballpark how many I think will get in there because I don't honestly know, but I think it's going to end up being pretty full for this game on Saturday, which is great considering where it's being played and what it took for anyone who wanted to do that.
And I promise we'll get to the game itself here in just a second. But what's the mood around Ireland among the hometown folks, the Ireland natives? What do they have to say about the game? I've seen people online saying they understand it's a football game and they like football, but they don't quite understand the United States aspect of collegiate football and what that means. What do the people of Dublin think of this game?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Football becomes a complicated word. It's a simple word, but it becomes complicated once you get into an international context because not only could it be soccer or rugby football, some people refer to that, that as football. There's also Gaelic or Irish football. So I was just talking to a guy who lives in Dublin who is from Uruguay originally, and he was saying, my thing's football. I was like, wait, which football? And he was talking soccer. So there's a lot of that, and I think you get asked a lot, like when people realize you have an American accent, they're like, are you here for the football? So they kind of know. When I checked into our hotel, a nice older gentleman I was talking to, he was like, yeah, it's kind of the only thing going right now. So it's definitely the biggest event, I think, in Dublin going on. Although I did see Liam Gallagher of Oasis is playing a concert Saturday night. Unfortunately, I don't think games could get over in time for me to make that, but Liam Gallagher is here as well. That'll be a pretty good draw.
Whenever you said that, I thought you meant like you ran into Liam Gallagher somewhere. I'm like, that sounds a column in itself.
Yeah.
Now, Brandon, I said one more question before you get to the game. I got to ask you, though, the hotel, what are the digs like? Is it nice, or are you living on the height of luxury over in Dublin?
I kind of feel like we are. The hotel itself is nice. The rooms are, European, so they're a little bit smaller than your probably typical American room. But we are literally, like, I could hold up my camera if it weren't so dark. The stadium is like 2 minutes over my shoulder. Like, I'm sleeping closer to this stadium than I park when I go to Memorial Stadium to cover games. So it's great from that perspective. When Nebraska has practice, we just walk 2 minutes over there, and it's really great. The stadium itself is basically in a neighborhood, which I love. It reminds me of like Fenway or Wrigley in that regard. Like, there are people who live like 50 yards behind this stadium. Which is just a cool thing. You don't see that a lot anymore, particularly in America, where the stadiums, end up someplace where they can surround it with a ton of parking. So I enjoy that aspect of it.
Now, I will say, I'm not going to name any names here, but I do know somebody that slept 2 minutes away from Memorial Stadium after a long night on O Street, but not going to name any names. Going to move on past that one. Not me. I do know somebody, though. Brandon, let's get to that game, though, as kickoff is nearing. And I can't believe some people are saying this week's going slow. For me, maybe it's just how much we have to talk about here on the show. It feels like this week is flying by, and kickoff is nearing by the minute. And I want to get your take on what this first half and this first quarter is going to mean for the Huskers in the grand scheme of their season. Mark Whipple mentioned that during his availability yesterday, that the job that he wants from Casey Thompson is not necessarily to come in and be that Heisman-type contender quarterback, that guy who is just lighting it up. He wants to be a guy that keeps Nebraska in this game and makes sure by the end of the first quarter, by the end of the half, Nebraska is in striking distance of Northwestern and in a place where they're well positioned to win the game. But in the grand scheme of this season, what do you think that first half is going to mean, and what do you think we're going to see?
I mean, getting off to a strong start, a fast start, and it wouldn't even need to come with, a big lead. No, you'd certainly love that. I mean, you'd love to have the 2021 game against Northwestern over again, because Nebraska had the best of that from the very first play and cruised the entire time. And it sticks out because that was such a rarity for this team that has trailed so much over the past 4 years. I'd be surprised if it goes that well, this time. First games of the season have a tendency to be, they're always prone to some pretty choppy play as teams are figuring it out. They're playing for the first time in over or almost a year. So, I think the ideal start for this, like if Nebraska has the choice, I think they'll put that defense on the field first, which is a bit of a departure from past seasons that we saw it a little bit last year. You get a stop, you have a controlled drive. I think the key becomes then getting a couple of first downs, and then maybe you can take a shot. But, Whipple's been pretty consistent with like, hey, let's not try to win this game on the first drive, because we're not anyway. But you can get a lot closer to losing it by just one bad choice. So I think they'll come out pretty controlled, and just having a strong start would be such a big deal for this team after this offseason where we all know the stakes and know where they've been. Having some things go your way, making things go your way right away, could get this thing rolling in the right direction pretty quickly.
We'll get to the defensive side of the ball here in just a second, but Brandon, last thought here on the offense. Who's a guy that, if you were putting money down right now, that you think is going to pop in the game on Saturday, based on what Northwestern brings defensively and based on what we've heard out of fall camp about this offense? Can you pick a guy that you think, after the game on Twitter, Husker fans are going to be saying, yeah, that guy was a key player for this Husker offense? And it can be anywhere. It can be offensive line. It can be within the backfield, the wide receivers. I'm not limiting you here. Just a guy that you think is going to pop out off the screen for Husker fans.
It's not easy, which, is one of the more interesting elements of this game. If I had to pick one, I might go Trey Palmer, the LSU transfer. He, and Frost kind of alluded to it when talking about him on special teams today. Like, he is one of those guys that just brings kind of a level of speed that Nebraska hasn't had a whole lot recently. But in terms of like, who's the receiver who's going to, make the tough catches when it's 3rd and 6? We don't know yet. Maybe it's Vogelek. That might be my first pick there. Running backs, I think there's a lot of potential there. I don't know who's going to take the first carry, not for sure, much less who's going to lead them in rushing. And I guess the good news there is you probably got 3 realistic candidates who could probably do that. So forced to pick, I'd probably go with Palmer. Maybe Marcus Washington. His time at Texas was kind of, you look at it and I don't know exactly what to make of it, but he certainly played with Casey Thompson, and Casey Thompson has talked about kind of upping their maturity level, both of them, from where they were at. Maybe that's an option, but that's one of the great things, great mysteries about this offense is it's tough to point to like, oh, he's going to lead them in receiving, he's going to lead them in rushing, other than presumably Casey Thompson will lead them in passing. I don't know much else.
Now, on the defensive side of the ball, we had black shirts handed out yesterday. We hit that pretty in-depth on the show yesterday, and I don't necessarily think that all 9 of these guys are going to be on the field first whenever this Husker defense trots onto the field. That's to be determined, but rather than getting your reaction to those 9 black shirts, which of those guys, I guess let's flip this question from offense to defense, which of those guys do you think is going to pop outside of the obvious? I think Husker fans, no matter what kind of game Garrett Nelson has, are going to be impressed with that Garrett Nelson performance just because of how he plays the game and how he's stepping into a new role according to the Husker coaches. But outside of Garrett Nelson, who's another guy you think is going to pop on Saturday?
Well, yeah, great question. I think you can count on those inside linebackers to be really good. There'll be guys you notice, but they also feel like they've proven enough to maybe be a little obvious. So to go a little lower on the card, so to speak, I might go with Miles Farmer. It's just because I've been a longtime Miles Farmer fan, and I think this is finally really his time. Although the fact that Marquise Buford Jr. was one of those black shirts, and not a total surprise, he had a really strong spring, but there's a lot of good options, I think, in the secondary. So for him to get one now certainly caught my attention. So I'll go with both safeties then. I'll cheat. I'll go 1A, 1B and say these safeties are going to show, they're going to be something we're talking about Sunday morning, Monday morning, and going into North Dakota.
Brandon, about a minute left here as we're less than 48 hours from the game. What is Brandon Vogel's key to victory for Nebraska? And I think we're going to check back in with you on Saturday, so you can change your answer before then. But as it stands right now, what's a key to victory for Nebraska?
I think the one thing Nebraska should be able to do and has to do, it probably lies with the defense. And Northwestern's offense is, I have a hard time seeing it throwing well enough and big enough to beat this Nebraska team. It's going to have to do it on the ground, and it's got the running backs to do it. It's got potentially the offensive line to do it. So how does Nebraska hold up against that run game? That's kind of the key X factor there. That's going to tell me early on, say midway through the second quarter, halftime, like where that number is at for Northwestern will probably be a good gauge of how Nebraska's doing overall.
There is Brandon Vogel joining us here on a Thursday edition of Hail Varsity Radio, checking in from his hotel in Dublin, staying up late for us. That's why we love Brandon. And Brandon, I hope it's just not all football for you this trip. I hope you get out and get some sightseeing done, all right?
Sure. Yep, we'll get some done. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate your time this afternoon here in America and evening in Ireland. We'll check in with you, I believe, again on Saturday. But coming up after the break here on Hail Varsity Radio, we're going to get Mark and Chris back into the show. Maybe another pint of Guinness down for those two. And we're going to continue talking Nebraska-Northwestern. That's coming up after the break right here on Hail Varsity Radio.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back to you. We're at the Mary Cobbler Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow Thursday. Your friends at Union Bank and Trust making this happen. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak wearing the Atlanta gear, and Elijah Herbel back at our ESPN Lincoln studios. And we have some friends from Ireland wandering in here. We're just off to the entrance, Nebraska-Northwestern getting ready. It was awesome to spend time with so many folks that are excited for college football to kick off the season here in Dublin, Nebraska, practicing today.
Yep.
And the Big Red, Scott Frost says they're locked in, ready to go. That's what you want to hear. But the more and more people you talk to, either players, we talked to Travis Vokalek a little bit earlier this week, talked to some of the parents we've gotten to know over the years. They feel really good about where this team can be. And listen, is it going to be 6 or 10, right? And then there's that window in between with the hope, if you're a Nebraska fan, for a season win total. But in the interest of here and now, where we're at, just across the street from Avila Stadium here at the Mary Cobbler, it is so important for Nebraska to get off on that right foot. And you listened to a little bit of the Kaz podcast, Coach Kaczynski, on our flight over from Atlanta. And Kaz, I think, nails it because he's been in this league for 1,000 years, where it is going to be run game and time of possession and stopping the run. But Nebraska is ready to go. There's some time to enjoy themselves, but it truly is, it's a little cliched, but business trip. They want to do something they haven't done for a long, long time. You got to go back to 2016, and that's get some momentum, get downhill, figuratively and literally, in a good way, on Saturday when we get things kicked off here at the Mary Cobbler, 1 o'clock local time in Dublin. And, of course, kickoff at 11:30 back home, Nebraska time.
Yeah, and look, one of the things that Kaz was talking about so much that really resonated with me is just how we can talk about all the different things that we want to talk about, and we can have. He even got a little upset with you and with like you media guys. What are you talking about? Because
Kaz will show me his hand, structure, discipline.
Yeah,
you know
he was about to backhand you a couple times.
And you know what? Kaz is your typical phenomenal athlete, lineman, and like 4-0 guy.
Well, but what he was trying to get at is, you can say all the things you want about, well, we think this is going to be close and we think it's going to come down to the end. Or, whoever gets off to the best start is going to win, blah, blah, blah.
That's boring.
He's like, none of that stuff actually matters. What matters is, have you prepared yourself
for adversity
to give yourself the best opportunity to win? Because there's a lot of stuff you're not going to be able to control, a lot of variables you won't be able to control. But have you done the work? And according to Scott Frost today after practice,
hay's in the barn.
He literally said the hay is in the barn, which is the most Nebraska phrase ever. He said the hay is in the barn. He feels like they have done that. He feels like they have put in the work to give themselves the best opportunity to win. But all it takes is one dude to screw it up and drop a ball, right? So to sit here and say, well, if the first quarter is going to go 14-7 and this guy, we're going to jump out to a lead, and if we don't, then no, it has nothing to do with that. It's like, do you have enough collective resolve, offensively, defensively, with your captains, with your coaches? Do you have enough resolve to know and trust your training and just get after it consistently, no matter what happens? Because that's
what this has been about. Has been about trusting your training, dude, and responding to when it goes to Bleepville. That's it.
That's been the problem. All right, JoJo Doman, undrafted, is going to make an NFL roster.
He's good.
Year. Ben Stilley, undrafted, is going to make an NFL roster this year. Right? Damian Daniels got cut. He's probably going to get picked up somewhere else.
He can ball.
Right. The problem has not been talent. I don't want to hear that crap anymore. It's not about talent.
And I don't think folks will argue that talent's been lacking. It's been, what have you done with the talent?
What are you going to do with it?
And from a leadership standpoint, either you lead as a coach. If you don't have a leader on the team, you feel like you've got some true leaders on this team. As Scott Frost touched on a little bit today after Nebraska's practice, we got in a little bit ago. And we're here at the Mary Cobbler Hail Varsity Roadshow on a Thursday. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak, Elijah Herbel. Frost originally concerned about the Ireland trip. How are you going to react? How are you going to focus with the travel? But he has a team he feels pretty grown up about. He has seen it through fall camp, and he's seen them stay focused. I know Whipple said they were a little sluggish. Yeah, we're a little sluggish with the amount of travel that has occurred. So, no, this isn't lip service. And listen, we're a little bit more than a week removed from Pukegate. Sorry to bring that back up, but we are in a pub and we've been vibing. So, it has shifted. Yeah. And Nebraska knows what they need to do. And the reality is Nebraska knows it's not going to be perfect, and they're okay with that.
Well, they need to be. And the thing you wonder about with Northwestern is last year was such an anomaly, right? When you look at what Pat Fitzgerald has been able to do with Northwestern over the course of his career.
He's awesome.
Yeah, it's consistent, right? Like, it may not result in consistent win-loss totals, but in general, that's a team that's a tough out, right? That's a team that's going to foul off a lot of pitches. That's a team that is just not going to go down easy. Like, if you beat them, you're going to earn it. Now, here is the pattern that they have followed, which is scary to me. It's, in terms of win-loss totals, it is literally every other year, going back like a decade. I mean, it is like sub 500, well above 500, sub 500, well above 500, just up and down, up and down.
And
guess
they
what this
beat
year
some
is?
teams. It's
the above
year.
500. Yeah. So this is the
year.
year that they compete for the Big Ten championship if they're going to follow their trend.
I don't know that they can follow their trend because of the quarterback. And Helinski may be...
How long has he been there?
400 years, but he's never won the job, all right?
How old is he if he's been there 400 years?
Well, you've got the COVID year, and you carry the two, and I'm not going to get into math at a pub. Just order me one more.
I just added it up. 418 years old, Ryan Helinski.
Well, Hall, the redheaded demon, He's going to be trying to run the football.
He's not going to start. Oh, they haven't announced it officially, unless they did today and we missed it while we were flying.
Elijah, jump in here. Give us some stateside correction. Fitzy didn't just say, by the way.
We didn't miss it, right?
Yeah,
Northwestern has said that they are not. They have not announced a starting quarterback, and Fitzgerald said he's probably not going to announce one until kickoff. So you'll know once that first series starts.
Okay. A big shocker. It's going to be an average quarterback that's going to start no matter what.
Run the football, recover a fumble.
Yeah.
We've got a bit of an audience with us here at the Mary Cobbler. You guys want to wave? Yes or no?
Yeah, sure.
Wave back to Nebraska.
Hold on.
Say hi.
Got some folks here from Nebraska. Go Big Red. Yeah.
He's already got that down.
Got some Go Big Red. Yeah, got some Go Big Red folks that have flown in, and they are doing it up too. They're hitting like every spot of Ireland, doing all the Game of Thrones scenes and like the Star Wars. Yeah, all doing absolutely. In fact, one of them is Jim, who I know well.
So Jim's going to be with us next hour.
Well, I think so. If we can coax him into doing it. But one thing that Jim's
shaking his head no.
One thing that Jim was elected to do was drive here, and we'll talk to him about that, which I would not recommend.
Gary Barnett's coming up at Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Rolling through a Thursday edition of Hail Varsity Radio. Here we are presented by the Nebraska Lottery. And also should note that Chris and Mark's trip out to Dublin brought to you by Union Bank and Trust. Want to thank them for their generous support of Hail Varsity as Chris and Mark, again, taking a segment off. They're going to be back with us a little bit later next hour, as it's me taking up here the top of the hour. And then leading off next hour, we're going to have Chris's sit down with Gary Barnett. That is all coming your way. But got to take a quick reminder to let you know that there are 1,500 crashes each year in Nebraska involving an impaired driver. Driving drunk, buzzed, or high is never acceptable, and law enforcement officers are working every day to stop it before more people are killed or injured. If you're going to drive, don't drink. And if you do drink, make sure you designate a sober driver or get a ride share. Get a ride. A DUI costs more than you think. A message brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office. Okay, we are rolling through on a Thursday here. It's Elijah Herbel chained up in the studios of ESPN Lincoln as I am unable to make the trip out to Dublin. Somebody's got to be here. That's as simple as it gets. Somebody's got to be in the studio driving the ship, and that duty has fallen onto me here this weekend. I do believe there is a plan in the works for me, Elijah Herbel, to be making a trip to Ann Arbor, Michigan later this fall as I try to make it out to one away game a year, and I'll be checking in from there. Tickets have not been purchased, the hotel room has not been purchased, and the gas has not been taken out of my budget just yet. I'm definitely not flying. I don't have a care for flying if driving is an option, but that is something that is being worked on right now, and we will see where that comes to. If you missed anything from this first hour, remember, you can catch this entire show in podcast form. ESPN Lincoln Twitter page will have segments posted up from today's show, and you can also check out the full show at the Hail Varsity YouTube page. It's going to be posted up here a little bit later tonight, as well as Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, really wherever you like to get podcasts. Odyssey is another great option for you to get these podcasts. And I was working in with a caller earlier this week to make sure whenever you ask Alexa to play Hail Varsity Radio, Alexa should be able to get you the most recent episode of Hail Varsity Radio as well. If it doesn't work, try to tell Alexa where you want that podcast to be played from. So, hey Alexa, play Hail Varsity Radio on Spotify. Or, hey Alexa, play Hail Varsity Radio on Amazon Music. Whatever you use for your streaming service, try that if you're struggling with your Alexa, and I promise it's going to work out well for you, because we want to get this show available wherever you want to listen. We do the show for you, so we want to make it absolutely accessible for anyone and everyone who wants to take a listen. And again, those segments posted up on ESPN Lincoln's Facebook and Twitter, and you can also check them out at espnlincoln.com. And we still have a full hour of the show coming your way. As coming up right after the break, we're going to have Chris's sit down with Gary Barnett. Chris recorded this before he left for Dublin yesterday morning, and we're going to get the chance to hear that coming up leading off hour 2. And then we're going to sit down and we're going to talk with Ted, who is hosting Chris and Mark over in Dublin. That is going to be coming your way at about 5:25, and then at 5:40, Ted's going to continue sitting in with us. I have a full list of Irish slang I want to quiz Mark and Chris on, see how well they know it, and we're going to make sure that Ted is there. So they are real Irish slang words, and we're going to make sure Ted can confirm that. That is all coming your way next hour. Keep it tuned. After the break, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back into it at Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. The man who knows Northwestern, Hall of Fame coach with the Wildcats, ahead of Nebraska and Northwestern to talk with us. Coach Gary Barnett joins us. Coach, it is all about football here, week 0. How we doing?
Well, we're getting ready to go. We're 2 weeks away here at CU with TCU, or a week and a half now, but I think everybody's looking forward to it. Sort of like you're counting down the days. So, and fortunately, you guys get to participate that first week, and really the first game out of the hat.
Yeah, and it is going to be exciting. A lot of Nebraska fans, as we talk, have already landed, making my voyage there soon enough. But I got to ask you: are you going Guinness or are you going Jameson? You got to pick one.
No, neither one. I can't handle either one of those two dudes. So I'm much lighter along the beer line than Guinness. I can't drink that stuff.
So if I, Coach, we're going to a pub in Ireland, I'm going to buy you a beer, and you're going to ask for, give me a Coors Light. You're going to go Harp. Okay, Harp's a good call.
I'll go Harp. Yeah, I can go Harp there.
Hey, Harp's a great. I don't know if I'm going to get stink-eyed or thrown out if I ask for a black and tan over there, so I might just have to stick with either Guinness or Jameson, and I can't do the Jameson lemonade. I might get punched, so I'll just stick with Guinness. What's your feel? I'll get to Nebraska's side of the ball in a moment, but Coach Fitzgerald not showing who is his quarterback, and that part of the offense with Northwestern. I know Hull's back, Stronsky's a really good left tackle, and I know Northwestern's going to want to be physical, but what's your assessment from afar on Northwestern at quarterback as they get ready for week 0?
Well, I don't think Fitz is trying to hide anything. I think it really is.
You just didn't know.
I think they're really having a problem trying to make a decision. That can be good or bad. It could be they're all playing well, or it could be none of them are playing well. So, but if he's got a guy that's a guy, he's going to name him, and he's not going to try to play games with it. So I think they're probably struggling there just a little bit. And, he's trying to get ready for all these new players, I think, is a real challenge for Northwestern. I mean, they have to go back and find film on Casey Thompson of Texas. They've got to go get film from Whipple at Pitt and UMass. They've got to do all those sorts of things. So their job's a lot tougher, and they can't be as detailed because they've got to look at the big pictures of all those kids and then still look at Nebraska's offense. So, their challenge is a little different. And I read somewhere where they said they'll probably have to take the first quarter and see what's really going on. I think that's probably true. But I think he's used to doing that, especially, when you open up with, I think they've opened up with 3 Big Ten openers in the teams in 3 of the last 4 years. So they're used to doing that a little bit.
Gary Barnett's with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Yeah, you opened, Northwestern did last year with Michigan State and in Mel, and you Northwestern's been one of those teams that seems to bounce back, Coach Barnett, after a tough season. As you look at Northwestern, what do you expect the strength of the team to be, and how can the defense make some strides? I know Hankowitz has been gone now; it'll be a second year.
Well, yeah, and I'm not real familiar with. I think it's Coach O'Neill's stuff.
Yep.
With his defenses, but Hanks was solid. It was just so you were never out of position. They were simple, and they brought pressure when you didn't think they were going to bring pressure. It was just Hank's sort of MO that they were so well coached. So, I think that's probably as much as anything where they've got to make more improvements on the defensive side. And, Coach's second year, as a coordinator, I'm sure that'll be better. But it's hard to tell, really, what's going to be the strength of that Northwestern team. It's usually the team itself. It's just that they play so hard, and they're hard out, and they're going to make every game hard for you, whether they're, exciting or whether they're dynamic or whether they're explosive. That comes and goes, but they're usually just a hard out. It's hard to beat them.
Gary Barnett with us, few minutes previewing Nebraska-Northwestern over in Dublin. There's a Hail Varsity Road Show across the pond. Coach, a thought with at what point do you kind of hone in on the identity part of your football team on offense? You laid out like the big picture. Northwestern's a hard out. They're well coached. They're talented, very talented, and you don't make mistakes. Flipping it around, where on the offensive side of the ball, you can try and go down a certain path for an identity, but when it comes to that decision-making process, at what point, either in camp or in the season, do you think it comes together? When are you sold on what you think you do best on offense?
Well, I think it depends on the age of your kids and how much experience they have. If you got a veteran quarterback that what he can do and what he doesn't do well, and he's got the respect of all the other players, then you got a pretty good idea who you're going to be. But when you're still trying to make a quarterback decision at this point in time, then I think it's going to be a while before that identity really surfaces. So it's Fitz is going to be surprised as everybody else when it happens, and whatever identity ends up showing up.
Coach, what do you think of this Nebraska team, all the change, either with staff and personnel? We did our predictions earlier in the week with win totals, and that we will go burn the Nixon tapes, so to speak, if they're so way off. But we think Nebraska will be bowl eligible this year. What's your overall outlook for Nebraska as you kind of look at them from afar?
Well, I would agree with that. I think they're going to be a bowl eligible team. 10, 15 years ago, if you had all these kinds of changes, it would be so hard to make the adjustment to them playing. But you would have two-a-days, and you would have, you'd find out more about how all these personalities would mesh in the grind of a two-a-day preseason. You don't have two-a-days anymore. You don't really have the grind of the preseason like there used to be. And so you may be a little more in doubt as to exactly what you have until 3 or 4 weeks down the road. But I think I would agree that you look at them and first of all, you just can't have that much bad luck 2 years in a row. Just the football gods don't let that happen. So, I admire Coach Frost. He's been unflappable over this last year with stuff, and he's just got to stay that way and keep the respect of his players, and then quarterback's got to show up. Casey Thompson's got to show up and do his deal, and then all the receivers have to mesh. So it's, I agree. I think it's a bowl eligible team. I think they're going to be better than everybody thinks they're going to be. And I think a team that's playing them for the first time, like Northwestern's, at a big disadvantage, not really knowing where everybody is because they're all from somewhere else.
Coach, how much do you look back at last year's Week 0 experience from a learning standpoint? And I ask that because that was a big theme, is just letting it rip and being and playing confident, not gripping it too tight. Coach Frost talked about it. One of the captains, Garrett Nelson, talked about it. The pressure that was the feeling going into Illinois, right? Week 0 and a bit of a surprise with Coach Bielema and, new coach, new staff, similar to what Northwestern's facing this year. If you're Nebraska, can you learn some lessons from last year of what not to do, being too tight in an opener like this with all the noise outside going on?
Well, I think the kids that played in it, yes, but you've got a bunch of players that didn't play in that game last year, so they don't really know. Mm-hmm. So I think it's hard for both teams, but it's the same challenge for for Nebraska as it was last year. They're going into Illinois. Everybody expected Nebraska to win that game, and quite handily, actually, based on the year before. Mm-hmm. And they're in the same situation now. Everybody expects them to beat Northwestern based on the fact that they played poorly a year ago. So that's the part you have to overcome, is you got to have the respect for the team that you're playing. And that's the hardest thing for humans to do. It's the hardest thing for young people to do, is to go in there completely respecting the other team. That's when you win and win big. It's when you don't have it, it's not there, and then all of a sudden you get hit in the mouth, and you've got to get the respect. It's hard to do in the middle of a game.
Were you able to, as your career continued, play loose, make sure your team was loose, focused, yes, but loose and not uptight?
Well, I think sometimes, that's not so much in the control of the coaches as it is the leadership of your program. Gotcha. I mean, coaches are always going to know what to expect. 99 times out of 100, it's the locker room that's your issue and the challenge, because if your veterans are there and they know, then they're not going to let the young guys go the wrong way with their thoughts. But if it's not that way, and in this case it's sort of a mixed bag for Nebraska, then human nature takes over, and you just don't go into the game with the same amount of respect that you should have.
Gary Barnett, couple minutes with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Nebraska-Northwestern preview as former Northwestern head coach. Coach, I enjoyed. I was watching BTN last night, and they were doing all sorts of Nebraska-Northwestern ahead of the big show. So they had a rundown on Nebraska, and then they had a profile, the Run to the Roses for you in '95. So I watched that program, that documentary on when you took over and took Northwestern, and getting guys to believe, to buy in with where Northwestern was before you took over and what you ascended them to be. And that was really cool to see. And remember the story you told about you guys were together watching Ohio State, Michigan. You needed the Michigan win to get to Pasadena for an outright Big Ten title. And Coach, you had a whole bunch of roses on your front porch when you got home?
Yep, on the yard. It was cool. I didn't grow up in a Big Ten, and so the Rose Bowl was never anything that I had thought about being that big a deal, but it was that big a deal in Chicago, that big a deal in that part of the country, and I found out real quick how big it was because everybody got involved.
Well, Coach, let's get down to some predictions here. Nebraska-Northwestern, the line's minus 13 as we talk. The over-under minus, I shouldn't say minus, but 51.5. What do you see on Saturday for Week 0 Nebraska-Northwestern?
Well, I think that's about right. all the way across the board. I think Nebraska by 13 is about right, or was it 13 and a half? It's 13, and 13. Then and 51 on the over/under. I think I'd take the over on that. So that's sort of what it feels like to me from afar.
All right, key for each team. What's key for Nebraska? What's key for Northwestern?
Well, the key for Northwestern is to play better defense. They've got to be able to control the game with their defense, and they've got to settle. They've got to withstand the first quarter of new stuff. And I think that for them, the first quarter, first half, if they can go in at halftime and be in the game and have an idea, then I think they have a chance. I think Nebraska is, for them, is like I said earlier, if they go into that game completely respecting Northwestern in the situation, then I don't think they have a big problem winning this game.
Mm-hmm. Gary Barnett with us. Coach, I won't be able to swing the clubs, but I'd be wishing I was on Sunday. You enjoy some golf, enjoy some football, and thanks for talking Nebraska-Northwestern with us today.
You got it, Chris. Good being with you.
Gary Barnett, who sat down with Schmidt, I believe that was yesterday morning to get a little preview of Nebraska-Northwestern. As you heard, obviously, Gary Barnett knows Northwestern football inside and out, and it's always great on a Thursday to sit down with Coach Gary Barnett, and we'll get his reaction to what goes down on Saturday coming up next Thursday. Gotta love Coach Barney. Coming up after the break here on Hail Varsity Radio, we're going to get Schmidt and Mark checked in back again from the Mary Cobbler in Dublin, Ireland, as we're going to roll through the rest of the show with them, talk some Husker football, and I promise it's coming, Irish slang. We're going to see what Schmidt and Mark think of some Irish slang, whether they can predict what it means. That's all coming your way after the break right here on Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Great to be with you. It's Hail Varsity Road Show Thursday here at the Mary Cobbler. We've made it on the way to Dublin, Ireland. Kraynak's feeling it, man.
I'm tired, man.
He's got the hat on backwards. Elijah Herbel back at our ESPN studios. Mary Cobbler, we're going to be here Friday and again Saturday in front of Nebraska-Northwestern, 1 to 3 Ireland time.
The Mary Cobbler is only like 4 minutes away from the stadium.
Well, you can swerve or go in a straight line.
Yeah.
Can we put this in Nebraska terms? Is this Old Father to the stadium? Is this the Union to the stadium? How far away are we?
It's not Old Father to the stadium. It would be more like, let's go
Avery?
Love Library.
Okay.
Good
call.
Yeah.
Love Library to the stadium. Yeah.
We're going to take a moment of silence.
But here's
for
the thing:
Avery
you look
Hall.
at it on a map, and you're so used to the grid system, you're like, "Oh man, that's like 14 blocks." But some of these blocks are like they're tiny, so it's not the same. So yeah, Love Library is a good good comp.
Well played.
Yeah.
Or we'll say the start of O Street to the end of O Street, from maybe 14th to 17th.
You got to go from Harry's to
Sandy's.
Okay.
Yeah,
go with that.
but your stops, of course, are going to be your friends at Duffy's, and absolutely you end the night with the bar. Shameless, forgive me.
Oh, that is.
Seth and Gregors, we
digress.
We wish you were in Dublin with us. But we'll check in with Jim, big time Nebraska fan. He is going to pop on. Yeah, no,
kind of, but he is from Nebraska. He's becoming more of a fan.
Okay.
Yeah, he's becoming. He went to Missouri. Yeah, it's okay. Other than that, he's a good dude. He's a good guy.
I hear Missouri's beautiful. I've never been to Columbia.
It is. They have green chili beer at one of their establishments down there.
I
Beautiful hills.
Nebraska's got to do the next time they're in Dublin, bring Missouri over.
Wait,
Okay.
can we circle back here for a
get with
second?
that.
Green chili beer, is that kind of like a jalapeno ale? What's a green chili beer?
It tastes kind of like the aftertaste of nachos.
Because we want 12 ounces of that.
Yeah,
that sounds
it's very good.
Okay, it sounds horrendous, but I'll take your word for it.
It does sound horrendous. How about point totals, Elijah? And let's talk season. Let's talk game. Kraynak, Nebraska. What do they need to put up? Is it the magic? Is it the magic 30 again for the Big Ten?
Well, let's go back to last season. This is something I think you and I hit on a couple of months ago, Schmidt. Nebraska, if we round up, put up about 28 points per game last season while holding their opponent to a little under 23 points per game, 22.67. So if rounding, make it whole numbers, Nebraska last season put up 28 points per game. And you got to remember there's also games like Northwestern and Buffalo where they put up more than that, and that's going to affect the point total. But 28 points per game, and they gave up 23 points per game, which, you know, whenever you look at that on its face, you would think Nebraska would have a better than a 3-9 record. But also, it's been spoken ad nauseum. Yeah, Nebraska had a positive points differential last season and still went 3-9. So let's get into that. What is the number that Nebraska needs to put up, assuming the defense can hold par, to do better than that? Or we can talk about it conversely, does the defense need to be holding a team to under 20 points per game once you average out to across the whole season?
Elijah, good questions. And to be frank, between field position and special teams, Nebraska got punched, you know where, once a game. I mean, worth at least 3, special teams worth at least 3 points per game in the losses. At a conservative number, at worst, it was 9. Maybe even a 10-point difference. Then you factor in the field position, whether you're backed up or someone's starting on the wrong side of the 50 if you're the Nebraska defense. So to me, Nebraska's number doesn't have to grow per se to 30 or 35. It'd be nice, because I think if you look at all those games Nebraska's lost, you're the team that gets to 30, you win. I think that's your threshold in the Big Ten. You score 30 and you get a couple of breaks and you're sound, then you're going to win by that one score versus losing by that one score. And it comes down to a turnover, a possession, and one drive that is the game changer, where someone's going to start Iowa, right? They'll start at their own 40 or 45 that can flip momentum. So to me, I'm going to still just scream about 30 being the number, what you need to score. The question to me is, how soon do you need to get there? Because we all think the offense will be a work in progress, and that's okay, because you can lean on the defense. You just can't lean on the defense as long as you did last year.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned about the work in progress for the offense. Let's think about this. You got an offensive coordinator that was at Pitt last year. Mm-hmm. You got a quarterback who was at Texas. Your top receiver was at LSU, and your top running back was in JUCO. How's that all going to work together? I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Better work well Saturday if you're a Nebraska fan.
But are you going to depend on that? Are you going to say that
that's why you brought them all here?
Like, are all those ingredients going to mesh together on week 1?
Is it going to be a great pizza, or is it going to be awful?
Yeah, week 1, I don't think we can expect a ton there. But over the course of the season, I tend to agree with where you're going. I think the defense can actually take a step forward this year. Offense, I would like to stay at par. Special teams, of course, go up. I think defense, though, culturally, I think those guys are right. I don't think we should lose sight of the fact that 3 of the captains this year are from the defensive side. And one of them is a guy who pretty much nobody called as a potential captain, in Caleb Tanner. What that says is that you have an entire roster on defense that is getting better, and they're kind of creating their own thing. They're creating their own identity. Who had Caleb Tanner as being a captain? Like, nobody.
Had Caleb Tanner coming back in January.
Well, nobody even thought he would be a. No one even knew if he would come back, let alone be elected a captain by his peers. That speaks to a pretty strong culture that they have defensively.
Well, and just look at those captains as a whole and think about what type of players you have there and what they can instill into the team if that leadership, if the team plays like the captains. You've got Garrett Nelson and Caleb Tanner, who you watch them play, they are 110% guys every single play. I've never seen those guys take an off play. Are they prone to mental mistakes at times? Sure, but it's not because of a lack of effort. Those guys will give it their all. They're willing to die on that field just based on what I see whenever they're playing. And you add in a guy like Nick Henrich, who he's also willing to do the dirty work. He didn't always flash last season, and it's because he did his job right every single play. And whenever a linebacker does that, they don't always flash. Yes, they're taking on the block with the correct shoulder, and he's letting Luke Reimer come in and clean it up. He's not playing for glory. He's a guy who is playing to win the football game, and I love that. And then offensively, with Travis Vokalek, it's almost the same story where he's been called Baby Gronk out of practice, blocking is the least sexy part of the tight end position, but it's probably the most important part. Guys are going to make their hay. They're going to make their name for the fans by going and catching the football, and you're going to go, wow, that's a great tight end. He had 100 receiving yards this game. But what's going to make an offense go is how well that tight end can come in and seal the edge, how well they can block, how well they can get the running game going. And if Nebraska's team can follow the lead of these 4 captains and say, yeah, you know what? We're going to follow along to what these guys do, how they play the football game. You're going to have a very hard football team to beat because it's going to be a football team that's willing to do the dirty work.
That is so important, and your best guy has got to be those dirty workers, right? I mean, they got to be the guys that embrace it, love doing it, and you hear it often in the off season and leading up to the season.
Dirty workers?
Dirty workers.
Or hay in the barn?
Both. Those
putting the
dirty
hay in the barn leads to dirty workers.
Well, no, you're a dirty worker if you're putting hay in the barn.
Yeah, okay.
We're gonna get Kraynak some Jameson now. Speaking of, Brady emails in advice, and we've been getting drinking advice all. Well,
as if you need
3 weeks.
Drinking advice when you go to Dublin.
No, I know. Well, you do. I mean,
like, what's the advice? Drink.
Here's the question.
Gotcha.
If you had to pick one, are you going Jameson or are you going Guinness?
Ooh.
That's the question for the room. And you answer wrong, it could be a little bit of an issue.
I feel like Jameson travels better, so if you're here, I think you have to go Guinness. If you had to choose between one of the
Super
two.
Husker fan Ted's like, just be diligent but careful that first night here with Guinness. Don't ruin it for the rest of the time.
Also, Chris, it's funny how every single time
it is special and different here.
Every single time
Dolman was right.
Every single time you mention Ted, he's becoming more and more of a Husker fan. It started out as, well, he's been to one Husker game, he's going to another. Now it's Husker fan. Now it's Husker fanatic Ted.
Ted has this giant red dragon tattooed on his back, and it's got a big red N on it. So
that's next.
That's my math on
the
it.
legend grows.
It continues.
Depending on how
and
many
he has
Jamesons
a vehicle
you've had.
named the Red Dragon. No Jamesons today. Back to the email here from Brady. The other day you were talking about having Jameson and lemonade. Scratch that and order a Jameson ginger.
Yeah.
Garnish it with a fresh ginger. I'm sitting next to.
I had one of those.
Did you? A ginger.
Yeah.
And have fun. Yes.
I get it.
And have fun. Go Big Red. Love the show.
You're very tricky.
Yes. High five.
There's a whole song about Jameson and ginger. Have you heard that one?
No.
There really is.
We bring in a big-time Nebraska fan. I don't know if he's got a
I don't know if we can
tattoo.
call him that, and I don't even think he
Jim, crawl in here.
Jim is let's bring in Jim, who has traveled over from Omaha, but not born and bred in Omaha. He didn't grow up as a Husker fan, but it's like starting to grow on you. So if somebody says,
You've
"Are you a
harassed
Husker
him, haven't you?
fan?" No. I'm being honest. Like, if somebody said, "Are you a Husker fan?" How do you answer that question?
100% Husker. And here's why.
Oh.
I was born in Lincoln. Okay, so I'm a native.
Okay.
And if you're born there, it's in your blood. So you can go away, but you always have to come home.
But Missouri, right? Missouri was a thing.
Well, I went to school in Missouri. Missouri's good. Missouri's great. I've got a lot of
How many Ruths did you run into at Missouri?
Ooh.
From Ozark?
See, I don't know how deeply we've talked about this before. I was confused about your Husker fandom because I heard Missouri, and you went to Missouri, and you liked the Tigers, and Norm Stewart. Missouri.
Stewart.
It's a Missouri and Missouri. So I just didn't know. But a season ticket holder for the basketball program. So
I feel
you're conflicted.
I'm
conflicted.
I'm on an island. I'm on an island right now, surrounded by a lot of water.
Right.
And I have a lot of family over here. I have a lot of Husker fans all around. So if I am a Husker fan. If I say anything less, I might have to swim home.
That's not good.
It's not. It's dangerous.
It's a long swim.
It's a long way.
Okay, put it this way. What if Nebraska plays Missouri? Where are you at? See, that's what I'm saying.
Ooh.
So that's what I'm saying when I'm like, is he a Nebraska fan?
Depends where the game's at.
I believe you tolerate and respect and appreciate Nebraska, but are you a fan?
He's
if they
here,
play
yes.
Missouri.
Yes. Okay. I'm making
right?
this decision right
That's
now.
tough.
Okay.
Shot
Yeah.
clock's at 90 seconds.
Right.
It's Huskers.
It's Anthony Peeler versus Strickland one-on-one. Who you got?
Yeah.
Oh,
Who you got?
I'm going Strick all day. Doug Smith, though. He could bang down.
He was
low.
a monster.
He was big.
Corby Jones, Scott Frost, and a cage. Who you going with?
Oh, wow.
Who are you going with?
I don't know. I've seen
Brock Olivo is the answer.
Brock Olivo versus Joel Makovicka.
Put up the
Wrestling
Oh,
match.
no.
Brock, he's going through.
And we'll take Mike Rucker. You take Martin Rucker.
Still haven't answered the question, though. Have you noticed that?
No, we got to hit break. And you stay with us.
all right.
Jim, stay with us. We will do Irish slang. Elijah Herbel has put the work in on that. And Ted may join on it as well. It's Hail Varsity on the road. Mary Cobbler in Dublin, Ireland, as we get ready for Nebraska-Northwestern with Hail Varsity.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Well, not Sweden, but Ireland. Mary
And not in your
Cobbler.
30s.
No, it's been
Can we
a while.
update this liner? What is going on? The guy is he's squarely in his 40s.
He won't let me update it.
Hey,
he won't let me update it.
Speaking of, you can do what you want. Speaking of birthdays, the bunny, my wife, Erin.
Yes.
Erin is 39 again today.
Congratulations.
She
to
is
her.
wonderful.
That is so cool that she gets to
I
just
gave her the
start
gift
over.
that keeps on giving. I got the hell out of the country for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
And she was so. Actually, she called me about that a year ago. She's like, "Would you please? I got a big birthday coming up.
Sure.
Can you get him the hell out of the continent?"
Feed him
I'm like,
these.
yes.
Feed
I
him
got you.
these. So in the backdrop,
I'm like, "Do you want him to stay in the hemisphere?" She's like, "Yeah, that's fine. But as long as
Ted
he's
is
off the
with us.
continent."
Let's give shout outs. Ted's with us. We're staying with Ted, Nebraska fan. Jim is here, and we're working on that determination, Nebraska or Missouri.
So I think we could just ask right now.
Mark Kraynak, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Mary Cobbler's where we're at. Union Bank and Trust making this happen.
Stone's
Thank
throw
you.
away from the stadium. And Jim, what did you determine? Are you a Husker fan or a Missouri fan? If you got Scott Frost versus Corby Jones in a cage match, who are you rooting for?
Frost will win.
This is tough.
Win
This is
now and
tough.
win then.
You might have some of your Missouri classmates listening. I respect how challenging this is. Born in Lincoln, went to Missouri, married to a Husker fan, season ticket holder for Nebraska basketball. This is a difficult question, but it has to be answered, and it has to be answered now.
Knowing how tough the Huskers and what Frost went through when he was a player, I would not want to be in a cage with Mr. Frost. So I would say
Where were you for the 97 game?
97 game, I was there.
Were you hanging on the
there, and
goalpost?
so I had my family. It was split, and had my family on one side. I was on the other side. My wife and I were still married. We're still doing good.
Yeah.
But to answer your
There was a
question,
pause there.
answer your question. Go Big Red.
Yay!
Well
there we
done.
go.
Well done.
There we go. We got it. All
We
right.
have Irish trivia now. Is this what it is? Trivia or
Slang.
slang?
Irish trivia time.
Slang, not trivia. Forgive
Irish
me.
slang.
This is where we you're gonna have to get up to speed on this stuff, lads, over the next few days. You're gonna have to get up to
Are
speed.
you? Do you have?
And Ted has pressure
Can you hear
tested.
this or no?
No,
he
just call
cannot
them out
hear.
as you go, and I'll keep you fresh.
But Ted has pressure tested all of these questions from Elijah to see if it is legitimate Irish
okay,
slang, and he
okay.
has blessed all of them
We're all square.
as legitimate Irish slang. And so the question is, can we translate what this Irish slang actually means?
Real quick, when you hear Rudy, what do you think of?
Jesus, I'm not sure I can say that.
Don't
on
answer that
radio.
question. Don't answer that question.
All I'll say is it'll probably mean something very different here.
Okay.
You won't want to say that if you're going to the toilet. That's all I'll say.
All right. Okay. All right, Elijah, let's get this party started.
Okay, we're going
Talk
to
to
start
us.
off. Our first word is flothered. Flothered is the
What-
word. Flothered. Most of Husker Nation will be flothered on Saturday.
Spell that.
Flutthered.
Most of Husker Nation will be flothered. I'm just going to go with that means hammered. I'm going to say that means hammered.
Well, we'll see
Drunk.
if Schmitty can get it under control.
No, I'm fine.
Correct.
I would say distracted.
Okay, flothered
Do you know
does
what
in fact
the
mean
beauty
drunk.
of the Irish language is, though, lads? It's very important. You can actually insert any word into that sentence and it still works. So you could be Mini Coopert. You could be Nebraska. You could be runs it. You can be just about anything, but they all mean the same thing. You're on your way home.
to get to bed because you've had too much to drink.
Okay. That's fluthered. All right.
Okay. Well,
And,
what's next, Elijah?
Our next word, similar to Rudy, it's opposite though. It has a completely different meaning in Ireland than in the United States. The word is, it's actually two words, cute whore.
Cute core?
Cute whore.
A cute whore.
A cute whore?
Yeah, I know. Just roll with it. It's okay. It means something. A cute whore.
Well, I suppose that just means
called Saturday Night.
a prostitute that's not ugly. I don't know.
Has full set of teeth.
What does that mean?
No. Come on.
Cute whore?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's a type of castle, isn't it?
It's kind of someone who's cheekily smart, kind of like clever.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Used a lot in the
Now,
political scene,
What
apparently.
did you say
Kinda
before?
like-
cheeky. What did you say?
Cheeky.
Okay.
Cheeky,
Kinda like
cheeky
Schmidt.
smart.
Smart aleck.
Yeah,
Oh,
look smart.
okay, yeah. So you have to even do that one.
Kind of like Schmidt. Schmidt's a cute whore. Next. What's the next question?
Okay, next word. It's a phrase
Thank you,
again.
baby.
Acting the maggot. Schmitty today has been acting the maggot.
Acting the maggot.
Acting the maggot.
Acting the maggots.
So that's when you're rolling around in rancid meat.
Jim's got something there.
No. I was just saying, maggot, small creature, feeds on dead things. After the game,
Acting the maggot.
I don't know.
Tell me. I have no earthly idea or guess.
It's an Irish term for
basically.
fooling and messing
acting
around.
the fool, being a fool.
Yes, it's acting the.
I'm
bit of
acting a
messer.
fool?
Yeah.
I didn't know maggots were fools. I thought they
you
were
go.
smart.
Why am I being a fool today?
Yeah. You're acting the maggot.
You always are. You're joking around. You're
The
having a
sentence
good
would be
time.
Kraynak
You
will
cute
be
whore.
acting the maggot.
Yeah.
You cute whore.
Yeah, I'm a cute whore.
You can put them all together. Yeah.
I feel flustered.
Next question.
Next word is banjacked.
Van Jack?
Banjaxed. Excuse me, it's an X in there.
I can't hear.
Banjaxed.
Spell it.
Banjaxed.
Banjaxed?
Banjaxed.
Like B-A-N?
Banjaxed.
Excited.
Befuddled.
You guys are both
Banjaxed.
wrong. It is broken. Like that chair is banjaxed.
Oh, it's broken.
Okay.
Then if
So-
you fixed it, what is it?
When
Boom
Kraynak
jacks.
went to Ted's toilet, he was banjaxed.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the toilet was fine when we arrived, and then you banjaxed it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah.
So Frost banjaxed last season.
Northwestern will be banjaxed at
Last
the end of
season.
the game.
Got it.
Fair.
Okay.
Well done.
There. Yeah. Okay. Next word is actually a phrase. Donkey's years.
Donkey's ears?
Years.
Donkey
Years.
Donkey years.
Donkey ears. My
ears.
brother's nickname back in the day was Uncle Donkey.
And then, okay, what if we added years to that?
Here's your
Donkey years?
Years or ears?
Years. Like the period of time. Years.
Years. Donkey years.
Well, we know
It's like dog years.
Yeah.
Donkey years.
7 years.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's
How many donkeys?
maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's shorter. Instead of 7 years, dog years.
You'd be very wrong. It just
Ass
means
years?
it means a very long time. They have lived there donkey
Very long
years.
time. Yeah,
a very
donkey's
long
years.
time.
So if I said my dog lived for donkey's years.
Okay.
Donkey years.
Forever.
Yeah, so you just kept going.
Okay, the last one we have about a minute left here, is
Last
Colchi. Colchi. That woman is a
Colchi?
This one is controversial. Colchi.
Spell that.
Culchie.
I would say uppity.
Huh.
It's a descriptive term rather than
An attitude.
yeah.
Short,
So it's a type
big,
of person.
heavy, thin.
sunburn.
Not getting any closer here.
Yeah, you're gonna.
30 seconds left. Get your final guess in.
Final guess, guys. Final guess before we have.
Tall and tan.
No.
No, it means
You guys are in the big smoke. You're in the big smoke, which is Dublin, and that's where all of us, the kind of the people that live in the city are, and then the Colchies are the people that live in the countryside.
Okay, so rural.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
rural's
I
a great
wouldn't.
word.
It's not a term of endearment.
Ah,
if you're a
yeah.
Colchie,
like rednecks.
you don't like being called.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You don't like being called
rednecks.
Colchies.
Okay, there we have it.
Yeah. There you go.
We'll wind down a Thursday road show. Mary Cobbler, Hail Varsity on the road, Nebraska-Northwestern in Dublin. And big thanks to Union Bank and Trust for making this happen.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One last time here on a Thursday, it's Elijah Herbel winding down Hail Varsity Radio. We are presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris and Mark, they are off to bed as we are just about to midnight over in Dublin. They are about to start seeing hallucinations with how long they have been up, so they're getting back over to their accommodations, getting to bed, and we will check in with Schmitty tomorrow. A Friday edition of Hail Varsity Radio will be coming your way as we'll get caught up with Bill Dolman as well as Clausburn. That's all coming your way tomorrow. But it was a good show today as back in hour one, we heard from Brandon Vogel, who's also out in Dublin. He checked in from his hotel room to give us the latest on the Husker happenings as he's been going to post-practice availability and checking out the city of Dublin. Big thank you to Brandon Vogel for joining us back in hour one. And then to lead off hour two, we had Schmitty's interview with Gary Barnett. Gary sat down with Schmitty before Schmitty boarded his plane for Dublin, and Gary giving us some good insight. Obviously, the former coach of Northwestern, he knows that program inside and out and follows it pretty closely still. So we got Gary's insight on this Nebraska and Northwestern matchup. Chris and Mark, you just heard from them some hilarity with that Irish slang. Again, they're going to be back tomorrow. Before we get out of here on this show today, let's briefly mention Aaron Donald. I know it's 2 days before the Husker game and everyone wants to be talking about the Huskers, but this is a story that's so big I just had to throw it in right at the end of this show here. Aaron Donald was captured in video in a joint practice with, I believe it was the Cincinnati Bengals today, and they got into a big old scuffle at midfield, and Aaron Donald maybe decided that he doesn't want to play the first couple of games of this season. As Aaron Donald using his helmet as a weapon, you can go look up the video if you don't believe me, repeatedly swinging his helmet at a number of Bengals players, and video wasn't close enough. I'm not quite sure if he made contact, if he made solid contact, if Joe Rogan was on the side screaming, "Oh, he's hurt!" I can't tell you any of that, but what I do know is the video looks very bad for Aaron Donald. As that projectile as a weapon makes me think back to Myles Garrett, that game between the Browns and the Steelers where there was talk, are they going to press criminal charges against Myles Garrett? He got suspended for the rest of that season, and I've got to believe there's going to be a suspension coming down for Aaron Donald here soon. Go look up the video if you haven't seen it. It's crazy stuff. I know everyone wants to talk about the Huskers today, but this is a story that could be permeating throughout the NFL over the next couple of days, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. Hopefully none of that will be going down for the Huskers on Saturday afternoon, as they're going to be juiced up, but hopefully not juiced up enough to take that helmet off and use it as a weapon. But with the amount of craziness we've seen in week one from the Huskers over the past couple of years, nothing's off the table. I just sure hope it's not that. If you missed anything from the show today, check it out, ESPNLincoln.com. That's where you get the individual segments as well as ESPN's Lincoln's Twitter page and Facebook page. If you want to catch the full show, a lot of great places you can do that, wherever you get podcasts, really. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon Music. I believe you can find it on Amazon as well. Odyssey is a great place to check it out. Or you can check out the video version on Hail Varsity's YouTube page. We love getting back to your comments on that YouTube page, and it's pretty fun. You can check out Mark and Schmitty from the Mary Cobbler. That's a great place to do that. We will get back to you tomorrow from 4 to 6. We're going to check in with the pride of Fairbury, Bill Dolman. We'll also have Clausburn joining us on a Friday, and I guess we'll get the latest out of Dublin as Chris and Mark are taking, it's not a vacation, it's not a work trip, it's somewhere in between. We'll get caught up with them tomorrow again at 4 to 6. That's when we'll talk to you again. It's been Hail Varsity Radio presented by the Nebraska Lottery.